Hello everyone, welcome to the course of Engineering Physics KS 101. In the last lecture, we were discussing about the Galilean transformation equation. The set of equations which relate the coordinates of two different frame of reference are known as Galilean transformation equations. Here, there are two frame of reference S and S dash. S dash is moving with velocity v, and suppose some event takes place in the space at point P, then the observer of S frame of reference will note its coordinates as x, y, z, t, but the observer of S dash frame of reference will note its coordinates x dash, y dash, z dash, and t dash. So two observers notes two different coordinates for the same event. Therefore, we must require some transformation equation which can relate the observations of two different frame of references. So here, if for a specific case in which S dash frame of reference is moving with velocity v in the positive vx direction, so this set of equations relate the observations of both observers. I mean the observation taken by the observer of S dash and observers of S can be related using these equations. This was for a particular case when the S dash was moving with velocity v, but if S dash is moving in some arbitrary direction with velocity v, then we must take account of the result component of velocity. In that case, the transformation equation can be written like this. So this set of equations which relate the observations of two different frame of references, two different inertial frame of references, which are known as Galilean transformation equation. Today we will discuss about the Michelson-Morley experiment. As you know that the velocity of sound is v is equal to 330 meter per second in air, but this velocity is relative. Suppose if you are in a train, then this velocity is with respect to the medium inside the train, but if you are on the ground, then this velocity is with respect to the ground. It means this velocity is relative to the medium in which it is produced. But according to electromagnetic theory of light, velocity of light c is 3 into 10 to power 8 meter per second in all directions. But the natural question arises with respect to which frame of reference this statement is true. If we are considering an inertial frame of reference in which an observer is moving with velocity v in opposite direction to the velocity of light, suppose the velocity of observer is in this direction and velocity of light is in this direction, therefore in the frame of observer the velocity of light will be c plus b. But if motion of observer is moving in the same direction in which in the direction of light, that in this case the velocity of light should be c minus v. It means there should be an inertial frame in which the speed of light is c in all the directions, or there should be an absolute frame of reference. Any frame of reference which has relative motion with respect to the absolute frame is not suitable for this purpose. Therefore, universal ether medium is proposed for the absolute frame of reference. The Michelson-Morley experiment was performed to determine the speed of earth with respect to this frame so that effect of observer's motion on the speed of light could be known. The main objective of the Michelson-Morley experiment was to confirm the presence of ether medium. Hypothetical ether medium. And to detect the relative motion between earth and ether. So at that time it was assumed that velocity of light c is with respect to ether medium, and if we do some experiment on earth, then effect of relativity must be seen in that experiment. Michelson carried out in 1987 in collaboration with Morley an experiment to measure the motion of the earth through the ether in which the light waves were supposed to occur. So let's first discuss the schematic diagram of Michelson-Morley experiment. So this is the schematic diagram of the Michelson-Morley experiment. This is the beam splitter in semi-silvered mirror. So the purpose of this beam splitter is to divide the incoming beam into two parts. So 50% of the beam is reflected at 90 degree and 50% of the beam is transmitted through this beam splitter. M1 and M2 are polished mirrors. The purpose of mirror is to reflect back the light beam. Here is the telescope. The purpose of the telescope is to see the interference between two beams. Here S is the source of light. To look for the earth motion through the ether, Michelson and Morley used a pair of light beams. Pair of light beams formed by a half silvered mirror. So this is the half silvered mirror, and actually it splits the incoming beam into two parts. One light beam is directed to the mirror M1 and other light beam was directed to mirror M2. It was supposed that this path was in the direction of the motion of ether. So for both the rays, S is the source, so the rays which reaches at mirror M2 and reflected back and finally reaches to telescope, if the transit time means from point P to M2 and again from M2 to P, if the transit time of both the ray is same, then they must reach to the telescope at same time and in same phase. So one can expect here to take a constructive interference should take place in the telescope. So the purpose of beam splitter is to split the incoming beam into two rays, ray 1 and ray 2, and if the transit time, what we are assuming that the arm length L is same, so the transit time should be same. If the transit time is same, then on viewing in telescope, both the rays must reach there in same phase, hence the constructive interference should take place here on the screen of telescope. In this analysis, we will assume that the light velocity of light is with respect to the ether medium, and will consider the relative motion between earth and ether. Here the velocity of earth is assumed to be 3 to 10 to the power 4 meter per second. So now we will take the relative account of relative motion between earth and ether, and will calculate the time taken by ray of light, that is ray 2. So we have to calculate how much time it will take from point P to M2 and again from M2 to P. So for the path P up to the observer in the lab will find that whole the setup, the velocity of light is c, since the whole the setup is moving with velocity v, that is the whole the laboratory frame of reference is moving with velocity v with respect to light. So the for the observer who is in the lab will observe that for this direction of motion movement propagation of light, the velocity of light should be c minus v, because whole the setup is moving with velocity v. So the observer will, when the light propagates from p to mt, he will observe the velocity that is c minus v. So the time taken by the light in traversing from p to m2 will be l by c minus v. But for the when the light reflected back, in this case light and observer both are moving in opposite direction, hence for the observer in the laboratory will notice the velocity c plus v. So total time taken by the ray 2 is time taken by the ray from p to m2 and time taken by the ray from m2 to p, and this can be calculated as L by C minus V plus L by C plus V. This is the time taken by the light to traverse from P to M2, and this is the time taken by the light to traverse the distance from M2 to P. In the both the case, since this whole setup is in the laboratory, so it is assumed that L is same for both the path. So we can further simplify the time. So we can get here 2lc by c square minus v square. We have taken out c square, which is common, and the whole expression can be written as this. Again, I have taken the binomial expansion of this term and neglected the higher orders, so the time taken by ray 2 will be this much, that is 2l by c bracket of 1 plus v square by c square. So the time t1 was the time taken by ray 2. Time t1 was this value, that the t1 is equal to this much, was the time taken by ray 2 to traverse the path from p to m2 and m2 to p. But now we are interested to calculate the time taken by the ray 2 to reach from p to m1 and from m1 to p. We know that the time is invariant in Newtonian relativity, and it is also invariant under Galilean transformation. So it does not matter in which frame of reference we are measuring the time interval. As in this case, we have measured the time interval in the laboratory frame of reference with respect to the observer of lab, but for our convenience we measure the time taken by ray 1 to reach m1 to O, m1 to P from the observer of ether frame of reference. So for our convenience we are measuring time taken by ray 1 in ether frame of reference for the observer of ether frame of reference. In this case, when the light beam strikes at mirror P at point P at the beam splitter, this is the beam splitter, same beam splitter. When the light hits here, okay, when the light hits here, it reflects to mirror M1. But for the ether frame of reference, since the whole setup is moving with velocity v, so at the time when it strikes at the beam splitter and when it reaches to mirror m1, the setup will move some distance. So the initial position, which was assumed to be at m1, will not be at this place and in the space, but this mirror will get a new position m1 dash. So the beam after beam, when it strikes the beam splitter, reaches to mirror M1 through this path. This was observed with respect to the observer of ether frame of reference. Again, this is happening because the whole setup, we are assuming that the whole setup, observer of ether frame of reference is rest, but our experimental setup is on earth, and earth itself is moving with velocity v is equal to 3 into 10 to power 4 meter per second. So when the beam strikes at this point P, then after reflection, when it splits, the part of the beam travels in this direction and part of the beam goes in this direction. So this is a new position of M1 dash. Again, when beam reaches to M1 dash, it reflects. When it reflects, the beam splitter get a new position of P dash. So if T2 is the time taken by the ray to reach from P to M1 and M1 P to M1 dash and M1 dash to P dash, then beam splitter in this time will move a distance V T2. So this much distance is moved by the beam splitter. Since there is this motion is along this direction, so this L will be constant, there will be no change in L. Another thing, what we have in the hypothesis of ether medium, it is assumed that the C is same in all direction. So velocity of C with respect to the observer of observer of ether medium, the velocity of light is same in this direction and also same in this direction. So so if this distance is Vt2 and this distance is L, so this half distance will be Vt2 by 2 and this half distance will be Vt2 by 2. So using this triangle we can calculate the time T2. So from this triangle we can calculate the time T2 as this distance plus this distance and divided by C, because the velocity of light is same in all the direction with respect to the observer of ether frame of reference. So this is the distance P to M1 dash, and this is same distance as M1 dash to P dash. So this time T2 will be this distance plus this distance divided by the velocity of light. So we can further simplify this. So again, when we simplify using the binomial expansion and neglecting higher order terms, we will get this term. So the difference between the transit time of two different rays can be obtained by taking the difference of T1 and T2. When we calculate this, we get delta T is equal to LV square by C cube. So this is the time delay between two rays. So the corresponding effective path difference will be given uh, by the multiplication of the velocity of light with the time difference. So the path difference will be equal to delta x is equal to LV square by C square. So far we have calculated the time difference between the path difference between two rays. Now what Michelson did, he rotated the whole setup by 90 degree, so longer path ray takes place of shorter ray and vice versa. So he rotated the whole setup. The setup was like that. Here was the source, here the beam splitter, here the M1 mirror M1 and here M2, and the whole setup was moving in this direction. So he rotated it by 90 degree. So when he rotated by 90 degree, what happens, the longer path takes place of shorter ray and shorter ray takes place of longer path. Hence, the effective path difference will be twice of the path difference that we have earlier calculated. As we know that now our next purpose is to calculate the fringe shift. So, as you know that from Young's double slit analysis or interferometry analysis, that the for two bright fringes, the path difference between two bright fringes is lambda. So the fringe shift can be calculated by dividing the path difference with lambda. So this is the expression for. So what I have done, and this is the path difference, we divided it by lambda. So this gives the fringe shift. So in the actual experiment, Michelson-Morley had taken L is equal to 11 meters. Means this arm length 11 meter, and velocity of the earth was assumed to be 3 into 10 to the power 4 meter per second, and the light was 3 into 10 to the power 8 meters per second, and wavelength, the monochromatic light source that he has used has the wavelength was the wavelength of that monochromatic light source was 5300 into 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So if you substitute this value in this expression, you will get the fringe shift of 0.4151. This was the expected fringe shift. Michelson repeated his experiment many times and many places, but in each case he did not observe this much fringe shift. Therefore, this result in which Michelson and Morley did not observe any fringe shift called it a negative result, because expected fringe shift from theoretical calculation was 0.4151, but no fringe shift was observed in the actual experiment. So this negative results basically tells us about the disagreement between the experimental and theoretical calculations. So what conclusion was made? Let's see here. So this is the expression as we have already calculated, as you have seen in the previous page. This is the expression for fringe shift. Here you can see that lambda wavelength of light, it is non-zero, L is non-zero, and C is constant. So only thing that one can conclude is that no fringe shift is there is V is equal to 0. So from here we can inference that there is no relative motion between earth and ether. In other words, we can say that the hypothesis of ether medium is not correct. So this was all about the Michelson-Morley experiment. Now, in order to explain the negative results of the Michelson-Morley experiment, a number of interpretations were given by different group of scientists. Here, these are the three main explanations that were given by different group of scientists. As we know that no relative motion was found, and therefore, according to ether drag hypothesis, it was assumed that the moving earth, the earth which is moving, drags the ether along with it. Therefore, there is no relative motion between the earth and ether. If ether itself moves along with earth, then one cannot expect that velocity of light of the observer in the lab will observe different. So there will be no question of fringe shift, but this expression was discarded because it was against the phenomena of stellar aberration. Second hypothesis was made by Lorentz-Witts contraction hypothesis. In the year 1892, Lawrence Fitzgerald gave their own explanation for the negative result of the Michelson-Morley experiment. According to him, all the material bodies are contracted in the direction of motion related to the stationary ether by a factor of 1 minus v square by c square. By the taking the suggestions into consideration, the horizontal arm of the body, which is along the direction of the propagation of ether, will appear of length L upon L into 1 minus v square by c square instead of L. It equalizes the time along the horizontal and perpendicular direction in the Michelson-Morley experiment. Hence, there will be no fringe shift. And third explanation was constancy of speed of light. In 1905, Einstein suggested a true and simple explanation for the negative result of the Michelson-Morley experiment. According to him, the speed of light is constant and it is independent of position of the source and the observers. Using the explanation for the Michelson-Morley experiment, we see that the time taken by the light to travel the two paths in this experiment will be the same, hence no fringe shift is expected.